Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and especially the family, parents, family of Jeremy, Kevin, Eileen, and we have many long-standing members of the Heritage Society. We have new members. We have a big community. We have many friends from all over, including having the support of National Heritage Board and so on. I'd like to begin by quoting something that Jeremy has been documented to have said. He said, "I'm not interested in photography per se." He was interested in what he called the sensorial experience of a space and the interaction with the environment. And I want to come back to this theme, but first I'd like to record that Kevin Tan in his speech, he didn't say something which is found in his speech, which was that the only reason why I'm invited to be guest of honor tonight was that finally I can do some work for the book. Because back in 2001, we were very excited about this project, and also we were very serious about this project because, among other things, of what happened to the National Library in Stamford Road, which is in fact one of the buildings that was documented by Jeremy and by the authors before it was demolished. If you go to the exhibition outside, on the back wall, there's a beautiful, beautiful photograph of the National Library's courtyard. And you can see that this project was born with some sadness amidst the great excitement that is something that we have to do and that we will do. What we did not know was that it had to take something like 15 years. And of course, Kevin was the so-called shepherd from the time of 2001. I remember 2001 because, as you all know, 2001 was also the year where we had September 11, where a number of buildings, in particular the World Trade Center in New York, was bombed. But back home in Singapore, we already have had some decades in which our past, and I'm going to talk a little about our modern past, was very quickly being erased by another kind of being modern in Singapore. I'll say a little more about that, but let me first say that, as it has been noted, during the last 15 years, a lot of things have happened. I know Professor Tan and Mrs. Tan is here. Along the way, they have become grandparents to Kar Lin and Ho Weng Hin's child and so on. They also got a degree in conservation and so on. And Dinesh also has been very much a part of this. You can see his picture in some of these pictures here. Now, I know that good things take time, but let us just reflect on the length of time that was taken for this project. Primarily, this was not a book that came out from a government institution. It was not from a university. It was not primarily a commercial project from the private sector. It was a book project that came from within civil society, and in particular, the Heritage Society, which operated by saying that we could not do anything without finding the funding to do it. And when we found the funding to do it, the project got bigger, and we wanted to keep to the highest standards, which Jeremy's photos now show. These are the highest standards of photography, of documentation that are being displayed. And therefore, in civil society, we have the kinds of energies, passions, social concerns, and of course also the talents. And the work is endowed with meanings which I think you can find many other books, but in one volume, 3 books in one volume with these pictures, I think this is a highly condensed in just one volume of 3 books. The kind of sensorial experience of a space that Jeremy, and in this case, we can say only Jeremy could have documented and shared. Now, I'd like to say something about the title of the book, Our Modern Past, and the title of the exhibition, Moderns in Our Midst. At first, when I read this title, I thought of the title, Gorillas in the Midst, which was, of course, a documentary about Diane Fossey and gorillas, and actually there's some parallel. We are talking about extinction. We are talking about a species of works, of human creations, many of which have disappeared, some of which will disappear, some of which was because of civil society, heritage society, and people like all of us here, which have been prevented from disappearing from the face of the earth. These species deserve our attention. They deserve our love. And in particular, they were modern before many of us Singaporeans thought about what it meant to become and to be modern. You might notice that in the current society that we're living in, the word modern sometimes stretches only to the last 50 years. And part of it has to do with SG50. But if you are seeing these buildings and you are experiencing them through Jeremy's photographs, what did it mean to be modern in the 1920s after the First World War? In 1919 in China, there was a very special modernist movement, the May 4th movement, in Singapore, living under colonialism, many ordinary people, and also especially intellectuals, were waking up to the idea of what does it mean to be modern. Modernity in Singapore did not begin in 1965. And sometimes now there is a kind of confusion that everything before 1965 was a sleepy fishing village. Whereas what these books are showing, what the documentation is showing, is that there was a long gestation and development of modernity and modernism, and these terms can be very academic, but what do they mean? Especially also whether our experiences of these buildings and their spaces and everything that went around the history, including the politics, the culture, what did they mean beyond the kind of modernity that seems to be purely utilitarian, very instrumental, compared to the kind of multiple sensitivities, these kinds of sensorial experiences that Jeremy was talking about. So, apart from the documentation of the beauty, I think that this book project, these three books in this volume 1 of our modern past, the pictures that we have outside in the exhibition, they create a new way of questioning our past and also owning our past, our modern past. Now, this is my last statement. The best way to honor a creative work, especially a book, the best way is to buy the book. Right? So, those of us who pretend to be leaders, we must lead by example. So, on the list of the names of people buying the book, the first name is my name. And I'm buying from NTU Library. When you buy a book, you are not getting just a book. We know that. What you are getting is a glimpse into what the Heritage Society defines as heritage. It is the living presence of the past, even when these tangible objects, many of them are no longer with us. We were in time. Jeremy was in time. And who knows what more could have been documented if fate turned out to be different. So the living presence of the past, our modern past. Thank you.